Hello and welcome to another episode of Fully Charged News. Very exciting episode, but just before I start, just want to remind you about Patreon. That's what keeps us going, and also subscriptions. Really important to us. Doesn't matter to you, just subscribe, no problem. And remember, we've got the great EV giveaway. Here are some details. Don't forget our great EV giveaway. Subscribe and enter for the chance to win one of several electrifying prizes, including one of 4 electric cars. Okay, I'm trying to deliver a fairly large wedge of news today because in the wonderful universe of clean tech, electric cars and renewable energy, there's a lot of news being produced. Later, I'll be catching up with Duncan Burt from the National Grid to find out more about this. The green light signal. Very exciting. Simple, but a lovely project. But first, some headlines that have caught my eye recently. Now, a few newcomers to the EV space that you will have heard of. Cadillac launched their first 100% from the ground up EV when they released details of the production version of the Lyric electric SUV. The company also announced that it's transforming to an 100% electric only car brand by 2030. Yeah, so what I hear you mutter, Cadillac, not exactly mass market. No, that's very true. But well, here's something I have to say I'd kind of given up expecting ever to see. Toyota are launching a battery electric car. Okay, it's next year and they're about 10 years late, but they are doing it and I'm sure it's going to be really good. The BZX4 is being launched early 2022 outside China because Toyota already make battery electric cars in China. They sell loads of them. They just didn't want anyone outside China to know anything about it. I'm sure that's not the case. Or to hassle them about why aren't you making electric cars to the rest of us. I'm sure that isn't why they did it. Anyway, as many regular viewers will know, Toyota have been pushing hydrogen fuel cell cars very, very hard for a very long time. And we drove the Mirai a couple of times for Fully Charged. It's a really nice car. And yes, we could have a sustainable, renewably powered hydrogen refueling network. I mean, it's possible. It just does not exist yet. And the cars are too expensive, and I think Toyota have finally accepted it's probably not going to work for cars. So yes, we'll hopefully be seeing a 100% battery electric Toyota either later this year or early next year, and at the moment we don't have any specifications for the BZ other than to say it will be using Subaru's all-wheel drive technology. That's quite intriguing. Now, moving on, another big Japanese car company, Honda, have announced that they will be 100% electric. That's all they will make by 2040. No more combustion engines for anything. But of course, because they're Japanese, the country that loves hydrogen fuel cells, it does mean that they will be producing HFC cars by then as well, which is fine. It's fine. I want Honda, Toyota and Hyundai to make a success of hydrogen fuel cell cars, trucks, buses and vans. No matter the drawbacks, it's massively better than combustion engines any day of the week. Next, Porsche, and here's a twist which might reveal the hesitancy that legacy car makers have when they release electric models. Sales of the Taycan have been extraordinary. Considering the cost of this beautiful car, it has sold better than any other model Porsche they produce. Now, a lot of people are bandying around things like, because they, those dreadful headlines, they really do go, is the Porsche Taycan a Tesla killer? No, it's not. What the Porsche Taycan is, as many people have pointed out, is more likely to be a Porsche killer. Now, I've heard rumours from Porsche owners, I can't find any press about this at all, that the company are actually restricting imports into the UK to give their old clunky combustion engine models a chance. Nobody's buying them, they just want to buy the Taycan. Anyway, and finally, VW have launched the original iconic Beetle as an electric car. Yeah, wait a minute, that's not a VW Beetle, is it? That's the... This is such a funny story, I love this. That is the all-electric Ora Punk Cat from Great Wall Motors, recently revealed at the Shanghai Motor Show. I cannot imagine why, but apparently this vehicle, which is very recently launched, has caught the attention of the VW legal team. Who would have thought that could possibly happen? Because, it's totally original design. Anyway, look, here's the important bit of this story, because obviously it looks a bit like a VW Beetle, as in I look a bit like a 65-year-old grey-haired balding old man. The Ora Punk Cat has around 60 kilowatt-hour battery pack with around 250 miles of range and costs around $21,000 or £15,000. That is the important bit. These cars are coming. And just a quick heads up, Elliot Richards' super comprehensive report from Shanghai Motor Show will be on Fully Charged next week. And let me just remind the established car makers of Europe and North America, the tide has already turned. Any new combustion car you launch now is going to be worthless and a burden to society in the next 3 or 4 years. And any decent electric car is going to be very popular. And there will be more and more well-made, energy-efficient, long-range and reasonably priced, even cheap, Chinese electric cars on the market in Europe and North America soon. They are coming. That is what they intend to do. They may be building them here. I'm not saying they'll all be made in China, but they're going to be selling them here, that's for sure. Next, I just want to mention a brilliant YouTube advert from the Australian government. It's not from the Australian government, but it's just brilliantly done. It's not strictly safe for work, as in there are some rather fruity Australian language involved. But I'm used to it because I live with an Australian. But I think it's a fair appraisal of the baffling, rabid anti-EV stance of the current administration in that lucky country.
Hi, I'm from the Australian government, here to announce our latest plan to take a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and flush it down the dunny.
But here's a good news. An upbeat story from Queensland, the home of my wonderful wife. Now, Queensland is not exactly known for its super progressive attitude to the energy transition, electric vehicles, and developing a sustainable circular economy. Now, the folks in power quite like a massive open cast coal mine. However, there is a company in Queensland that's bucking the trend. This is wonderful. Ace EV. They are producing small, light, very efficient electric vehicles, Utes, which is Australian for utility vehicle. This is such good news coming from a country with a government that is actively, constantly campaigning against electric vehicles. Australia, you have more renewable energy potential and the raw materials needed to be the global leader in low carbon transport and energy. Anyway, and here's a rather uplifting story from the Netherlands. Now, we all know that whatever technology the human race produces, there will come a time when it approaches the end of life. 30 years ago, there was not a single megawatt of offshore wind generation on the planet. The total global capacity is now reaching 40 gigawatts, and the UK alone has more than 10 gigawatts. So, back in 1997, a total of 28 Nordic turbines producing 16.8 mere megawatts were installed just off the Dutch coast. The lifespan of a wind turbine is currently around 25 years, depending on maintenance quality and environmental factors. There is one that's over 40 years old in Denmark, but that is unusual. 25 to 30 years average. These old turbines are being replaced by fewer, bigger and massively more efficient turbines. And when I say bigger, the new ones are so huge, close to the height of the Eiffel Tower in Paris when the blade is at its height, apex, whatever that is. Anyway, what do we do with the old ones? What do we do with the old wind turbines? Oh, we just throw them away. No one cares. We dump them near poor people's homes and let the rust contaminate the local water supply. No, wait. No. That's the traditional oil industry. That's what they do. Sorry, I just got confused for a moment. So these wind turbines that are being taken down off the coast of the Netherlands are being recycled, and around 90% of the material from the turbines can be recycled. The blades are the big problem at the moment. They can be broken down to potentially usable material levels, but there is currently no market demand for that stuff. It's like powdered fiberglass. Do you want 450 tons of powdered fiberglass? Not this week. All that aside, and whatever your attitude towards nuclear power might be, reusing 90% of the materials in an old product to make a new wind turbine is not a bad start. I mean, if you go to a nuclear reprocessing plant, and I have been, well, yeah, I mean, it's an unfair comparison. It is not fair. I will grant you that. It really isn't. But let's say you were offered some recycled high-quality steel from old wind turbines. You'd probably say yes. If you were offered some recycled high-quality radioactive steel at bargain basement prices from an old nuclear power station, you might pass. Now, the National Grid in the UK are doing some amazing things, tracking and managing a huge shake-up as we transition away from burning fossil fuels to generate energy. And we really are seeing huge progress in that. We're seeing a massive increase in renewables. And one of the ways the National Grid want to illustrate just how much renewables we generate on this windy island, they have launched the green light signal. That is one there. That's not on at the moment because because we're not generating enough green electricity in the UK. When it goes green, bing, that turns green. It's really cool. Anyway, here's Duncan Burt to explain things. Duncan, thank you very much for joining us. I'm very excited about this. We don't have green electricity at the moment because otherwise that would be green. It's such a simple idea that it communicates something so clever. So can you explain what my green light signal does?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been, a few years ago, we started something which was brand new, a world first, which is we started trying to figure out where people's electricity came from so that we could help you understand where your power was coming from.
Yeah.
And the big thing about that is that actually nowadays an awful lot of your power is green, as you know. It's coming from wind, it's coming from solar, it's coming from nuclear. And we realized that it was only a small technical hop and a step to go from figuring to telling you on a data feed where your electricity is to plugging that into a smart bulb. So we've got a data feed which basically tells you how green your electricity is in your local area. So in the beautiful Cotswolds, there you'll be, as we both are actually. It's often quite low carbon. Right. And then that light bulb just picks up that signal from the internet. Right. And when the power is mostly green, the light bulb goes green.
It goes green. And I mean, is there a specific sort of carbon level, a counter that it kicks in with?
That's right. So we've set it to go green. It's in line with the ESO app, the National Grid ESO app. Yeah. So it goes green at around 150 grams a kilowatt hour, which is about 50% renewables and nuclear. Very
simply. Okay. That's good then. So it's quite harsh. It's not like going, oh, there's some wind, quick, put the green one on.
yeah, no, not at all. But yeah, no, it's vast, and it's become vast in the last 10 years. Yeah. And now as you know, the grid is regularly running at more than 50% renewables and certainly 50% low carbon with nuclear in there as well.
Yeah. And I mean, that is such an extraordinary achievement that I think I constantly try and celebrate in the UK because it's sort of partially unknown. But I mean, we're in this incredibly privileged position as an island with a very windy coast.
It's a few years since I knew the number, but I think it's about 40% of all of the wind energy that passes over Europe goes over the British Isles. It's some incredible figure like that. Yeah. So why not make the most of it?
Yeah.
And we launched the bulb last week, ironically, with a huge high pressure sitting over the UK and no wind at all. So we had
but it's quite sunny. We had a lot of solar. I did all right here at home.
Solar. Yeah, about 8 gigs of solar, which is pretty good. That'd be about 20% of supply.
That is amazing. Sorry, say that again. We can produce 8 gigawatts of solar in the UK.
Yep. Well, we can nearly get up to 10.
Wow.
We'll probably see a new record. We think we'll see a new record this spring.
Wow. I didn't realise solar was that big. And what it currently is sort of if we go for maximum wind, like really windy day, or
18, 19, 20 gigawatts on hyper maximum. So, and then there's about 6-7 gigs of nukes. So you can get to 35 gigawatts almost.
Without burning any gas or coal.
Without burning any gas or coal.
That is incredible, isn't it? Yeah.
Which is why we've got this target to be able to run the grid in 2025, or the ESO has got this target to run the grid in 2025 with absolutely no fossil fuels at zero carbon.
Wow. By 2025 is pretty, that's amazing.
As you say, when people don't think that, climate change feels a long way away, people don't think about these things happening now, but the UK is, from all the international targets from 1995, the UK is halfway to net zero now.
Right.
And the bulb helps to celebrate that. So that bulb for you in the Cotswolds, it's not going to be as green as if you're in Cornwall or Northern Scotland, as you know.
Yeah.
But that bulb probably would be, if you're in Cornwall or Scotland, it would be going green probably half the time, a little bit over half the time. There are quite a few apps now that you can go and have a look at your local grid. Actually, I just brought one up while I was speaking.
Right.
One there like that. You can go and have a look at your local grid carbon intensity.
Right.
So it's not great today because it's sunny and not much wind. So you're going to be around about...
We are in the red bit.
In the red bit. And that's because there's loads of gas burning across the Midlands today.
Right. That's why it's not green then. So you can see on that, if I was in Cornwall or Scotland, you're right, it would be green now.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And the aim of it is we're trying to get this concept that the carbon in your electricity is going to go up and down more and more. And actually, as the system keeps changing, it was, you know already, it would be really cheap. Electricity would be much cheaper when there's lots of renewables on the grid. So it's a great time to charge a car. It'll be a great time to, well, if you're lucky enough to have a battery or anything like that, to run that as well.
Essentially, though, if people are really keen, they can buy one of these bulbs, and a LIFX bulb, LIFX bulb, and then if they go to the national grid and search for the green light signal, will they be able to find links to help them set that? Because there's an app.
I think we've put all the details on there as to how you connect.
Brilliant. There we go. Fantastic.
And what we're really trying to do is present it really simply to people and go, there it is. The light bulb is green. It's going to be green an awful lot of the time. And the UK, a bit like with the vaccination program, the UK is doing really well with this. We're one of the top countries in the world in terms of renewables, in terms of getting carbon out of the electricity grid.
Yep. Now, when it comes to vaccines and renewables, I get my Union Jack out and wave it. There's a couple of other topics where I discreetly put the Union Jack down, but we don't need to mention them. Anyway, thanks very much, Duncan. That's really good to catch up with you, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon. Bye.
And finally, this isn't some story I noticed in the press. This is something I noticed with my own eyeballs and small capacity brain. Now, last week, I went to London for the first time in a year, and I walked from the Notting Hill area to the Hampstead area to have a picnic on Hampstead Heath with a long-time friend to celebrate his birthday. We had a little picnic. It was nice. As I walked through the areas of London that can only be fairly described as affluent, very affluent, and I can't believe I'm allowed to walk along this avenue without being arrested, I was completely taken aback by the sheer density of electric cars. I'm talking Norwegian levels of electric vehicle uptake, not the odd Tesla here and there, dozens of them. Dozens of throngs of Nissan Leafs and Renault Zoes, dozens of Honda E's and BMW i3s. Really a lot of BMW i3s, very popular in Maida Vale. Now listen to this, I counted 5 Porsche Taycans as I walked through Belsize Park. You can't really buy a house in Belsize Park for less than quite a lot of millions, so it's not that surprising. But 5 of them, different ones, more Teslas parked on the street, plugged into Ubitricity street light sockets. I was intending to have the day off, not think about fully charged or electric cars or renewable energy and the vital transition the human race has to make away from burning hydrocarbons. I wasn't going to think about that. I wanted to think about poetry, philosophy, art, ancient cultures. Forget it. As I stomped my way up Fitzjohn's Avenue in Hampstead, I kept seeing more and more electric cars, and a thought hit me. Actually, it was 2 thoughts. 2 thoughts really hit me. That's a lot of thoughts for me. Number 1 was, where are all these people managing to charge all these cars? Now, without question, some of these cars would have very likely come into the area from outer London suburbs where they have off-street parking. Some of them would belong to people who have very large properties with discreet garaging round the back that's maintained by smartly dressed staff, because we are talking multi-billionaire homes around there. I am talking now about the houses that belong to the average, just the average millionaire, just a normal millionaire. And they do not have somewhere off the street to park. Because for every electric car I saw drive past me, I walked past 4 or 5 parked up, some plugged in, but most not. A brief glance at ZapMap when I got back home, covering the 3.5 miles I walked that day, shows a dense swarm of on-street charging points. I'm guessing many people use those. There are a few rapid chargers in supermarket car parks around the area, but I think what this shows us is even in dense urban areas, it is perfectly possible, with a bit of infrastructure and a little bit of knowledge, for a huge number of people to use electric cars in cities. And what this also shows us, and I think this is a good thing, is that more and more rich people are buying electric cars. Now, why is that important? Well, as the majority of residents of these delightful inner London suburbs, they can easily afford to buy a high-end combustion-engined SUV. But it seems more and more are choosing not to. Thank goodness for that. In 2 or 3 years' time, and this is very important, a lot of the electric cars I saw that day will be coming onto the second-hand market. That means more and more people will be able to afford to buy an electric car. Anyway, I just was really blown away by that. I think it's what's happened in the last year. It really was very, very noticeable. Anyway, that's all. I haven't got time for any more. We've gone on too far as it is. I just want to thank a few of our wonderful Patreon supporters who donate $10 a month or more, which helps keep this show going so well. It is extraordinary, and we are really, really deeply grateful for your support, and thank you very much. These wonderful people are Jacob Owen, Jasper van der Vlies, Mark Hutchinson, Laura Sanborn, Graham Stewart, Tom Bender, Marco Booth, Tim Flinders, Simon Brayford, Ray Hollingworth, Anthony Bowden, Martin Fodgetek, Ian MacDonald, Cullen Murphy, Alex Waterhouse, Victor Kongskov, Jerry D. Wolfe, Ernest Schmidt, Robert Double, and Nick Hewlin. Thank you so much for your support. It is incredibly wonderful and generous of you to keep going with us. There's a lot more names to come. I know there's so many people I haven't read out the names yet because there's so many of them, but I'm getting through it slowly. That's all. To mention, subscribe at the top. Won't mention again. Damn, I did. Never mind. Ignore me. As always, if you have been, thank you for watching.